AITA for getting revenge on my lying wife. I am 40M and my wife 38F. One night, during an argument, my wife attacked me while I held our infant daughter. To protect both my daughter and myself from harm, I went upstairs and locked ourselves in my toddler son's room. He was asleep at the time. My wife, however, became even more furious, banging on the door and screaming obscenities. I told her I wouldn't come out until she calmed down. After about 20 minutes, I laid my daughter down and went downstairs to investigate. To my shock, I found our living room in shambles, and my wife was taking pictures of the damage. It was clear that she had lost control. Our marriage had been strained for a year, so I decided it was time to leave for the safety of my children. I drove to my mother's house upstate to stay for a couple of days. However, the morning after, I received a call from my local police station. My wife had accused me of attacking her and kidnapping the children. The police wanted my side of the story, and I provided as much detail as possible. To my surprise, they arrested me. I lost my job and was charged with domestic violence while out on bail. With a restraining order in place, I had to start my life over from scratch. Our house was in my wife's name due to my father ruining my credit during my childhood. I couldn't even retrieve my clothes. After months of hard work and taking court-ordered domestic violence courses, my court date for custody of my kids arrived. Unfortunately, I had little chance. My wife had taken pictures of the destroyed living room, intending to use them as evidence that I had assaulted her and caused the damage. She won the custody battle, and I had to pay $1,789 a month in child support, while my monthly income was only $3,000. Living in a rough neighborhood and struggling financially, I persevered. I saved diligently, attended domestic violence meetings, and spent many lonely nights. After nearly a year, I finally regained visitation rights to see my children. During this time, I made sure to always record any interactions with my ex-wife to protect myself. It became apparent that she struggled to manage the household and care for our children on her own. Seeing her stress, I offered to babysit occasionally, which she eagerly accepted. Once I had this opportunity, I began gathering evidence of her inability to maintain a clean and safe environment for our children. My wife started going out more and eventually began dating a 23-year-old unemployed high school dropout living with his parents. Despite his shortcomings, she spent a considerable amount of money on him. One night, my wife returned home extremely intoxicated, complaining about her boyfriend. During our conversation, I mentioned the condition of our kids' rooms. She exploded in anger, yelling that I had been uncooperative when we were together and I was a little brat for not being able to take a hit. I had it all recorded. I left in silence, but she didn't contact me until my next visit with the kids. Swallowing my pride, I apologized and offered to babysit again. She agreed once more. After a few weeks, while my son was playing a computer game on my wife's laptop, he accidentally clicked a notification from her best friend Roxana. My curiosity got the better of me, and I searched for messages from the night she attacked me. To my disbelief, I found messages between my wife and Roxana, where they discussed framing me for abuse. I took pictures of the screen with my phone. Later that night, I confronted my ex-wife with the evidence, playing the recording of her explosive outburst and telling her about the chat with Roxana. She initially denied everything, but I pressed her. I demanded that she revoke her statement and admit to lying about me hitting her, threatening to expose the evidence to her family and on social media. After a major breakdown and plenty of cursing, she agreed to revoke her statement and admit to her lies. The next morning, she went to the police station and confessed to falsely accusing me. After a series of legal proceedings, my record was expunged. Terrified of her friends and family discovering her deceit, my ex-wife confessed to everything without hesitation. With this new development, I managed to reopen our custody case. With a clean record and evidence of her erratic behavior and household conditions, I won custody of my children. It was a hard-fought victory, but after nearly 2 years of struggle, I finally had my children back. I shared the evidence of her lies and admission of framing me with her family. Many of them responded with disgust over her actions and sympathy for my situation. Despite the challenges, I maintained a relationship with my ex-in-laws and planned to ensure my children could still see their grandparents. My ex-wife was furious, but I held no sympathy for her. I hoped to gain full custody of my children in the near future.